What if I was to tell you that you've been lied to about everything? I mean, everything. I want to give you a little piece of information here and see what you think.
Warren Buffett, the best investor that has ever lived, is currently selling massive chunks of his portfolio. Berkshire Hathaway released their quarterly earnings report just a few days ago, and if you browse through the balance sheet, you can see something is definitely going on. If we zoom in and have a look at their stock and bond holdings, coming into the quarter on the 31st of March 2024, Berkshire had $153.4 billion sitting in short-term US government bonds and had a stock portfolio worth $335.8 billion. Just looking at those two lines, Buffett was in 31% government bonds and 69% stocks. But now, take a look at Berkshire's posted results just 3 months later. On the 30th of June 2024, Berkshire held a whopping $234.6 billion worth of treasuries, $81.2 billion more than 3 months prior. And where did this money come from? It came almost entirely from their investments in stocks. On June the 30th, Berkshire had reduced their stock holdings from $335.8 billion to $284.9 billion. This means in 1 quarter, he sold at least $51 billion worth of shares out of the Berkshire portfolio. And in fact, once you account for the $23.9 billion worth of reported stock gains in the second quarter, it actually means he sold around $75.5 billion of securities in 1 quarter.
I'd like to ask you, what do you think this means? I'm going to tell you right now. What it means is this man knows something you don't. Well, what does he know? I'll tell you what. He knows that we have a $35 trillion. The interest payments on that debt alone are approaching $1 trillion a year. Which, incidentally, happens to be our gross domestic product. That's how much money the U.S. makes in 1 year. Let me ask you something. What kind of shape are you in financially when the amount of interest you have to pay on your credit cards and your mortgage? Just the interest alone, not making any payment toward the service of the debt, nothing toward the principal. Just the interest payments alone equal your gross salary for the year. It means your bank. Right? Now, running a country is a little bit different than running a house. Granted. But it ain't that much. One area it is different is a trick that Donald Trump learned decades ago. If you live in a town of 20,000 people and you owe your bank, say, $75,000 or even $100,000, and you're in this position, you're in trouble. If you're in a town of, say, 20,000 or so, and you owe the bank, say, $20 million, the bank is in trouble. How about that? You've got them over a barrel, not the other way around. I'm going to go back a few years and tell you about two men. One of them name was Saddam Hussein. He's the devil incarnate. The other one, his name's Muammar Gaddafi. And he's Lucifer Jr. Right? Funny little thing about Lucifer Jr. He could ride down the road in a convertible in the middle of the day. And there would be people on street corners firing AK-47s into the air, cheering at me. Same thing with Saddam Hussein. Yeah, were they doing things they shouldn't have done? I'm sure they probably did. But I'll say this. Their sin was that they decided to take the money that their country made in oil. And instead of giving it to people like Warren Buffett and the Rothschild central banks, they decided to give it to their people to prosper. That's why their people loved them. If you wanted to say get married in Libya, the government would give you, forget how many acres, it was at least 50 acres to farm, and 5 years worth of operating capital and all the training and farming implements that you needed to make that farm prosper as a wedding present. Hey, you know anything? If the government passed a resolution, they already had to have the funding in assets before they could pass that law. They had to have that much in gold put aside for that project. It had to be fully funded. They tried, Muammar Gaddafi tried to bring together every country in Africa and put them on what he called the gold dinar, gold-backed currency, where they wouldn't be operating on debt. They would be operating from assets that they already hold. Those central banks, they didn't kill that man because he was some evil dictator. His people loved him. Furthermore, he had already stepped down as leader of the country and his son was running. The people of the country loved his son too, because he followed the same policy. That's why that man was killed, is because he was holding meetings trying to form an African Union and finance it with the gold-backed dinar. Well, the same thing's what happened with Saddam Hussein. He wanted the Iraqi gold-backed dinar. How about that? I want you to look at every country that was on the wish list back in the early 2000s. They had one thing in common. They weren't members of a Rothschild-owned central bank. They didn't owe everything they have to the International Monetary Fund. And that couldn't be tolerated. I want to give you, say, a third grade lesson on finance. I'm going to try to keep it at a simple level so everybody can understand. And I know there's people out there, a lot of the people that listen to me that already understand what I'm about to say, but this is for the ones that don't. I want you to keep this in mind. People like Warren Buffett and these Rothschild bankers, they make money on the way up and they make money on the way down. Unfortunately for everybody else, they make more money on the way down. See, they ride a trend all the way to the top, driving the prices up. And then at a time decided by them, they start dumping their stock. Boom, boom, boom. They'll do it in drops like he did. He's already dropped $75 billion that you know about. That's not including the ones that you don't know about. That's the ones he's admitting. Okay? Well, what do you think that does? It sends out a signal to all the investors. Oh man, Warren Buffett's getting out. We better get out of the market. He was the pin that popped the balloon. The bubble just popped. Now you're fixing to see the economy start going down fast because they know they're losing. They're losing. And they want to put up guardrails around him and crash the economy. So Donald Trump takes the blame. One thing that they don't have the answer for, though, is this. Donald Trump actually knows what causes inflation. Everybody gives you half the problem. Oh, you have inflation because you're printing all this money. That's half the problem. Anytime you have a certain amount of product and you increase the amount of money, the prices go up. You've got more and more dollars fighting for less and less product. How do you fix it? Well, you take all the governors off production. You say, oh, we're not going to penalize this country into bankruptcy for for trying to get a business license. We're going to take all these BS regulations that we put on there to control the competition for these big corporations. We're going to take the regulations and the excess tax off of it. And then it goes, oh, there goes all your inflation. And they know that's what Donald Trump's going to do. That's why they're fighting it with tooth and nail. And if you think that I'm wrong about this, do me a favor. If you know anybody that actually cares about it, that knows anything about investment, go ask them what they think you should do with your money that you've got socked away in a 401k. Because where do you think all this money's coming from? They run these prices up. Your 401k goes up and up and up and up in value. They sell out at the top. Boom, it goes down, and guess what? They get to come back and buy that same stock back for less than pennies on it. For 0.0001 cents on the dollar. And then write it back up again. It's called giving you a haircut. We've reached the end of them being able to give us a haircut. They're getting into the skin now. And see, that's the plan. They want to crash this system and say, oh, it's an emergency. We have the fix. We're going to give you a central bank digital dollar. Which incidentally means we can track every penny you ever spend for the rest of your life. And if we don't like one penny of that, guess what? Turn your money up. Because we can. And you let us, sucker. That's where this is headed. If everybody doesn't understand what we're up against, get up off your butt and go vote. This is going bad for everybody. These people aren't doing this by accident. They know what they're doing. Now, do I think Kamala Harris really understands this? No. No, I don't. But I know the people that run her and make her decisions, they do understand. That's why she has them big money donors, you see. Think about it. What do you think? More and more of these companies are backing out and saying, hey, we can't take part of things. And they're starting to turn toward Donald Trump. These billionaires are like, hey, man, you told us you had a soft landing for us. This ain't no soft landing. You fixing to scalp us too, ain't you? And they're saying, no. Wake up, everybody. Please, for all our sakes. Wake up.